Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question comes to us straight out of the Judge Vault, and this version of it was suggested by my viewer Alex, who says that this one also comes from the True Stories collection. Amy plays a Village Rites, and she sacrifices an Eidolon of the Great Revel. Does Amy take 2 damage or not? Okay, so in order to answer this question, we're going to need to know one important fact about the process for casting a spell. That being this rule here, which says that the point in time where the game checks to see if any triggered abilities that trigger when you cast a spell trigger, well, that's going to happen after all of the other steps for the process of casting a spell have been completed, including the one where you pay the costs. This means that at the time when the game is checking to see if Eidolon of Great Revel's triggered ability has triggered, the Eidolon of Great Revel has already been sacrificed because that's one of the costs of casting the Village Rites. This means that the triggered ability from the Eidolon will not trigger because the Eidolon is not in play at the time when the game is checking to see if triggered abilities like that have triggered. So we get a free pass this time around. Now, this one reminds me of another really interesting question that is kind of along the same vein. Let's say that this time Amy is going to play that Village Rites, except this time she's going to sacrifice a Banisher Priest that has exiled an Eidolon of the Great Revel. What do you think? Would Amy take 2 damage in this case or not? And so, to see the answer to this one, we're going to take a close look at the wording on the Banisher Priest, and we can see that it exiles the Eidolon until Banisher Priest leaves the battlefield. That means immediately after the Banisher Priest has left the battlefield, the game is going to put that Eidolon of Great Revel right back into play. And after that, the game is going to do that check because the spell has officially been considered cast at that time. This means that the Eidolon, in contrast to the previous situation, actually will be in play to see that spell officially be cast, and that means that its triggered ability will indeed trigger and deal 2 damage to the Village Rites controller. Alright, so there's one more scenario that follows along in this same vein that I'd like to introduce. We're going to have the exact same setup as before, except this time we're playing the Village Rites while sacrificing a Fiend Hunter that has exiled the Eidolon of Great Revel. What do you think? Would we take 2 damage here? And in order to answer this one, we'll take a look at the Fiend Hunter's ability, and we'll see something very interesting. It actually works completely different from the Banisher Priest for as far as this question is concerned. The thing that brings the Eidolon of Great Revel back from the Fiend Hunter exiling it is actually its own separate, self-contained triggered ability. Now, triggered abilities do not go on the stack until after the process of casting the spell has been completed, because that's the next time the player would get priority. You don't get priority in the middle of the spell being cast, so that means triggered abilities are not going to be able to be put onto the stack until after that whole process has been completed. This means at the time when the game is checking to see if Village Rites casting has caused any triggered abilities to trigger, well, it's not going to see anything interesting happening. And so that means the game has not even yet put the triggered ability that will return Eidolon of Great Revel onto the stack at this point. And so that means it definitely will not be in play to be able to deal 2 damage to Amy from her casting the Village Rites. I really love questions like this, where the answer can change so drastically just based on slight changes of wording or changes in the situation. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. But until then, I hope you have a great day.